And we are live. Oh, I'm recording. Hold on. And we are live. Welcome back, everybody. I am here with Nico from Epic Daily Catholic, and we're going to be talking about some great stuff today. We're going to be talking about pious practices, scrupulosity, entertainment that Catholics should be watching. And we're also going to, for those that asked submitted questions in our Instagram, and the Instagram questionnaire thing, we're going to be touching on that at the very end. But first, we're going to be touching on like these big topics because we feel like these big topics are going to clear out a lot of the other questions that you guys had. So we're going to start off with the pious practices, the godly practices. What does that constitute? So for those that don't know, godly practices have a lot of benefits. I mean, some of the biggest ones are that like it helps with anxiety, helps with depression, helps with mental and physical strength, helps gain back control of your life. I mean, in the sense of like you're giving it to God, so like your will and His will be aligned, and like what better guidance than the person that created us. Yeah, it just has a lot of benefits. Personally, for me in my life, I've seen a lot of those benefits. Nico, what benefits have you seen in your life that like for benefits that you've seen with godly practices?
Yeah, thanks, Franco, so much. This is great to be able to talk to you here.
Mm-hmm.
And the pious practices, I guess, ideally, that's something we should be doing constantly praying, constantly like living in God's divine will. But I think some of the biggest benefits, like you said, anxiety, I think we realize once we get into constantly praying or having like constant practices, like praying the rosary every day or wearing the brown scapular, is that we get these graces from God. And then once we start, responding to God's graces, then we can actually like be free from anxiety. We see that anxiety is a choice, as St. Francis de Sales says. A lot of people think that they're helpless against anxiety or despair or all these things. They think it's like a weight that just crushes down on them and drowns them. They think they can't do anything about it. But then St. Paul tells us, pray constantly. So it's like, okay, we have a choice here. St. Francis de Sales says, anxiety is a poison. It's like the biggest evil that can befall us except for sin itself. So anxiety, again, is not a sin. But then if we're focused on the way we can control things, then we're not going to be able to focus on praying. We're either focused on anxiety or focused on, we have a picture of Jesus here. I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but yeah, we're either focused on anxiety or we're focused on God. So if we're praying, we're focused on God, and we're not focused on like, okay, how can I control things? No, we're saying, God, you take over. So then, yeah, that's just the pious practices just help us respond to God's call. And I guess the highest form of prayer is contemplation. So we recognize God's presence here. We lay ourselves bare before Him, like completely bare. We say, okay, I'm nothing, you are everything, so you take over, you're here, and I only want to do what you want. I want to love you as much as possible as you would love yourself. So that's like, I guess that's kind of like a long answer, but the short answer is just they help God just take over our lives completely.
Yeah, most definitely. So now into the practices, like a lot of people tend to have different practices, and there's a lot of different disciplines that we can find in the Catholic Church. So what we're going to be talking about here, this isn't going to be like everything that is available, because we'd be here for a long time if it was. But this is going to be what personally helps Nico and me move along in our daily lives and whatnot, and what we personally would recommend. For some, it may work very well. For some, you might have to find something different. But this is a lot of good stuff that I would essentially can apply to the large amount of people that listen to this. So, Nico, what do you do, for example? Like, what's some pious practices that you do, or you would recommend?
Yeah, so I guess in the morning, one of the first things I do is, I guess there's a practice. I think there's several. There's this little book I have called Prayers in Hell. I shouldn't be moving my camera here too much. I'm crashing into my little stand. But there's this little book called Prayers in Heavenly Practices by approved sources. So these are approved sources from like the Catholic Church, that Jesus or Mary are appearing to certain people, certain holy people, and revealing things to them. And among these things, like Mary discusses the benefits of just like praying the 3 Hail Marys devotion in the morning. So the first thing you do is basically you say like, okay, Immaculate Heart of Mary, or O Mary conceived without sin, which is the prayer on the miraculous medal. You say, just completely like prevent me from committing any venial or mortal sins today. So it's like amazing. You're asking the Immaculate Heart of Mary to help prevent you from even committing a single sin today. And then you say, okay, I offer these 3 Hail Marys to you in honor of the power of God the Father, the wisdom of Christ, God the Son, and the love of God the Holy Ghost. So then you just do the 3 Hail Marys, and that just boom right away, like asking Mary to take over, to entrust yourself to her. So then you won't even commit a single sin today. So that's one. And then I guess, the rosary, the three sets of mysteries every day. And then I guess, I do daily mass. One of the biggest things that inspired me to go to daily mass every day was, again, in that little book. It says that if you go, or Jesus told this one soul, like if you go to mass every single day or for 30 days, and then you receive communion in a state of grace, it's basically like heaven is guaranteed for you and one other person that you choose. For me, I consecrated myself to Mary. So basically, I don't have any personal intentions. So I don't say like, okay, I'm going to pick this person and this person or whatever for the 30 days, like the sets of 30 days. I just say, okay, Mary, like you take care of it. I entrust whoever you see fit to be that person that receives those, the benefit from the 30 days of receiving communion and state of grace, hopefully. So that's what I do. And then what else? And then I guess the most practical one, something that we can be doing like constantly is, I think the Eastern Catholics have this practice of trying to pray constantly with every breath. So they do the Jesus prayer, which is like, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, as you breathe in, and then as you breathe out, have mercy on me, a sinner. And for me, I do a little bit different because I'm really into Luisa Picaretta right now, which is about living in God's divine will. St. Alphonsus Liguori talks about being resigned to God's divine will, being uniform with God's divine will. But a step further is living in God's divine will. So then we're offering God not only our love, we're offering him the love of all, the love of the Holy Trinity, the love of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the love all humans should have given him if all souls went to heaven. Even though not all souls are going to go to heaven, we're offering him the love that we should have given him if we had never sinned, if we had always been grateful. And so the prayer that I like to do is the same amount of syllables, 7 syllables at the beginning, like the Jesus prayer. So Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, has 7 syllables. And then the one I do is Fiat Jesus Maria. That's 7 syllables. And then breathe out, I, the sinner, love you with all. That has 8. And then the Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's 7. Breathe in, 8 as you breathe out. So then the Fiat Jesus Maria is 7 as you breathe in. I, the sinner, love you with all is 8 as you breathe out. So that's one. Just trying to pray constantly. Again, offering God his love, not as we are offering it, or as if like we're not offering it ourselves to him, but as if he's offering it to himself through us, which is like pretty, like, it sounds crazy. It sounds like, okay, who am I to offer God his own love to him? But then it's like, well, in the Bible, God tells us, okay, ask and you shall receive, right? Like God's power is like unlimited. So if we ask God for something, we don't have to feel it. We don't have to feel it with every single prayer that we say. God says, ask and you shall receive, not feel and you shall receive. So if we ask God, okay, God, I offer this love to you, then like if he told Luisa, like do this, it pleases him, then okay, we're going to do that. And we're going to trust, we're going to be confident that we're glorifying God in a way that's like, seems unimaginable to us. But sorry, that might have been a long answer, but yes.
No, that's great.
Rosary,
I loved it.
Yeah, Hail Marys.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I like the part where you said like, it's almost as if you're kind of giving like the love like God's love back to him, because it all good, love is good, and like all good things come from God. So it makes logical sense, at least to me, in that sense, that like, yeah, like you are giving it back to him. It's kind of like a nice reciprocation. But yeah, for me personally, some pious. Oh, by the way, Nico, can you center your camera more towards you, if possible? Keep Christ in it though. Keep the crucifix in it though.
Is that going? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good. There
Okay.
you go. There you go. That's pretty good. There you go. So, for me, some practices that I do, like Nico, like you talked about like very, very structured stuff, which like I absolutely love, because sometimes when I'm kind of like questioning, I'm like, what should I be praying? What should I be doing? Right? Are there so I really like the structured stuff. Me personally though, I've been currently struggling a bit with like trying to pray my rosary every day. I've been trying to do that like daily recently. There was a time in my life when I was like super, like I had it down flat every single day. And I saw like literally enormous, like my anxieties gone practically, like everything like that I was like everything bad that I was experiencing, I reached a point that I was like living in bliss. And that's kind of like it's kind of tragic, because after receiving that, I was kind of like, oh, maybe I could just do it on my own. And that's when I had a sharp reminder that like no, like I got to this point because of God's help. Like sure, there's gonna be people that might want to hurt me, or I might get in sin, but your mental health, your mental state will always be fine if you just ask God to keep giving you more and more strength. Prayer is the best way to get the mind right. And so I saw enormous help when I prayed the rosary every single day. I'm trying to get back to that. But what I am still currently doing, these are not so structured, but they are still things that Catholics or anybody in general should keep in mind. And some of the things here I wrote them down is one thing is asking God to humble me, to give me more opportunities where I can be humbled. Me personally, I struggle with pride to a very large extent, and I'm trying to like, and there's a like, and given there's a lot of moments where, you know, like when I'm pretty proud of like my work or like something that I've done, and I have to like remind myself like, this is because of God. I was only able to do this because of God. I have to give all the credit to him, right? And however, like it's still kind of hard to, you know, it's still kind of hard to just like go off of that alone, for me at least. So I always ask, like, whenever I'm going into a social event or and like in places where you would not want to be humbled, I try my best to be like, to put myself in like a disposition to be humbled in those events, like, and not just to go out and be like, okay, yeah, I'm trying to let me see how I can humiliate myself, but it's more of like, God, please give me opportunities. I will accept any opportunities you give me to humble me, essentially. So that's something that I personally do. As well as you know, like, this is especially in the moments where I feel like I feel like wanting to impress people or wanting to show off or be a good just like social events, people that I haven't seen in a while, right? And then I just want to like kind of like prove myself as if, right? Like that's essentially kind of, I feel like to me that kind of, to me that seems a little bit prideful. If I just want, like, why do I want to prove myself to these people? It's kind of like, you know, I don't have to prove myself to God, right? And like, of course, act charitably to other people. I shouldn't be having to worry like what they think of me. In the end, it only, like, really, we should be performing for an audience of one, and that is God. And so you know, like that, the humbling part, that I think that's something that I personally do a lot. Or at least I will try to keep doing more of. And another thing is that asking God for help in like even the littlest things. I heard somebody say one time that like the humble soul, something along the lines of like the humble soul asks for help. And to me, that just makes like total sense. Like, it's like, you know, the more and more you ask for help, the more and more you will be humbled. And I think that like, even when asking in like the smallest things that like you don't really think that like maybe you might struggle with, but you're like, oh, I kind of got it. But it's like you should still ask for help. Right. And it's just kind of, it just sets yourself at like, yeah, you know, I'm always at your disposition, Lord. And apart from that, like I mentioned, the rosary, and this one is maybe not something that is promoted too much, and from what I've seen, but cold showers go a long way. I personally have gone back into doing cold showers like whenever I shower, and I've seen like, and you know, it's pretty uncomfortable. You know, there's a lot of discomfort that comes to it. But one thing that I like to remind myself is like, well, you know, imagine all the suffering and all the discomfort that the saints, that the martyrs had to go through, and like all I'm doing here is just experiencing a bit of chilly water. It's like, bro, come on, you know. So that's another huge humbling moment. So it kind of like sets me to one. It's a huge thing that can wake you up in the morning. So like I don't have to like get coffee or whatever. And also there's a lot of other benefits in cold showers that, you know, that come with it as well. But cold showers, really great. It's like it's a form of like, I think to me it's a form of like suffering that's like that can remind me to be humble to the pain of like the martyrs and like of all the saints before us. So that's personally what I do as well. And yeah, like that's pretty much some maybe less structured, but still like some things that I like to that I would recommend for some people that want to, you know, are struggling like me and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty much that. So anything else, any other practice or any other comments that you want to talk about, Nico, with any of this stuff?
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool that you mentioned that the rosary, that you used to do it every day. Yeah, I think, and that also with the cold showers too. Like I started doing that, I think, with the Exodus 90 when I did that a couple of years ago. I don't know how many years ago that was. But anyway, like for me, it's like, if you're going to be doing something, like don't just do it for 90 days. Like if you see one of the requirements, like for me, like the TV requirement and other entertainments, like, okay, well, I'm not going to be setting myself up for like doing a goal that I don't see fit to do for the rest of my life. Like for example, the cold showers, like I thought that was a good goal. So like I am pretty much have been doing cold showers ever since then, however long ago that was. And like no eating junk food, no alcohol, like, yeah, those are things that like are good, that can keep us, you know, healthy. Like I know you like to post about eating healthy food. It's like, yeah, your body's not a trash can. Like don't put junk into your body if you don't consider yourself junk. Like glorify God with every little thing. But yeah, and then with alcohol, it's like, okay, like I like to use my reason to glorify God as much as possible. Like I'm not going to inhibit my reason with some sort of like a silly little drink, and it costs money. It's like, for me, it's dumb. But yeah, of course, like the blood of Christ, like, yeah, we can like, yeah, the blood of Christ is a completely different thing for me. But But yeah,
Well,
as far as yeah.
technically, you could, if somebody decided to quit alcohol 100% and you have to get the blood of Christ, you're still not ingesting alcohol because the
Mm.
substance has changed essentially. It's now the blood of Christ. It's not actually alcohol, the substance at least. And the accidental change, I guess that's a different thing, but yeah.
Yes, yeah, I guess if that's a problem for people, then Christ will protect you. Like for me, like I guess a consideration before was like, okay, like I don't want to be touching like people's germs. But like I guess if you're like you were an alcoholic and then now you're like sober, like Christ will protect you, like or like with the germs thing, like whatever it is, whatever your concern is, like yeah, Christ will protect you with his body and blood. And
Yeah.
then yeah. But anyway, yeah, no, I think it's amazing. Like again, what you were saying with the cold showers with the rosary, like if you're gonna be doing these practices, like do something that it's gonna like change your life and you know it's going to glorify God. And for that reason, you're not going to want to stop it. Like it's not going to be a 90-day, a 40-day thing for Lent. It's going to be a lifelong thing. But,
Right.
but yeah, and then another thing you mentioned about humility is like, yeah, pride is a sneaky sin. Pride is the one that like sometimes you can't even tell. Like the other day I found out that even if we get irritated, that's a sign of pride. And then when you think about it, it's like, okay, like irritated, like that's just a reflex, right? Like, okay, I get irritated over this thing. It's like, okay, but who am I to get irritated? Who am I to get like to think that I deserve anything? Like I deserve to be in hell right now for one of my mortal sins. And then I'm like irritated that someone said this or irritated that someone, didn't respect me or didn't, honor me in the way I deserve. Like, okay, I deserve hell. So it's like, it's this cycle of I deserve nothing and Christ suffered more than I ever will. So it's like, thank you, Christ, for this opportunity to see that I'm nothing, to see this temptation to irritation, to see that like, yes, if I let you take over, then this temptation is really nothing. Like a trillion years from now, when we're looking back at our life on earth, we're not going to be like, oh yeah, that was really a big struggle. We're going to be like, no, that was ridiculous. Like that was a tiny little thing. And then nowadays people, I guess we see on like, I guess we put videos on TikTok. We see people complaining like, oh, this led me away from Jesus. Or, oh, like, I'm so sorry for myself. It's like, your struggles are ridiculous. Like, no offense, your struggles are ridiculous. And we can tell ourselves this in our moments where we think the world is ending, but really it's just like a little fly comes down and like bothers us. It's like, no, like direct your total focus to Jesus and don't focus on your strength. Don't say, I can let Jesus take over. No, say, Jesus, you take over. I can do nothing. And then in that way, then we're humble. Then we're saying like, okay, every little thing that leads me to focus on myself instead of God, that's a sign of pride.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I want to praise, again, your habits seem pretty amazing. So
Thank you.
so
I
yeah.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, I that's great. I like the part where you said, I like the part. I really like the part where you said, your body is not a trash can. Don't put junk in it. That was like I've never thought of it that way, but that's pretty interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I've been I one thing that I'm that I really regret when I was younger was like not eating very healthy. Like I didn't really like it. I always try to like eat as much sugar or as much like sweets or fries or whatever as much as possible. And now that I'm older, I'm kind of like I don't know if this is OCD, but I'm kind of like if I eat something else, like maybe other people would be fine if they eat it, but like me personally, if I eat something like something more, like something like that's harmful to me more, I might develop something in the future. So I'm trying to be careful. I ate enough stuff as it was back in when I was young. That's enough, but no, even then, like whenever I get whenever there's like my parents or somebody that I know when like I'm at work or whatever, there's like there's a bowl of like candy or whatever, right? It's so like I get so tempted to just grab like it's just one tiny Snickers bar, it's just one tiny one, right? But I kind of think to myself and I'm like, if I can't even control myself in that, it's like then that's not a very good reflection of my own self-control. Right, I don't want to like cave to like those such small temptations of just one little Snickers bar, one little chocolate bar. It's like, okay, well maybe you haven't eaten in like 3 hours or whatever. But it's like, you're gonna eat later. I'm gonna eat late. Well, for me, I'm gonna eat later, so I don't need it. I don't need to eat that, right? So that's personally, I don't know. That's personally for me how I see it. Maybe for others might be different, but yeah, to me, I'm like, if I can't even reject this little piece of like just I don't know, highly processed chocolate bar or whatever. That's not a good reflection of that's not a good representation of my self-control. So I like to think of it in that way. I guess that's another sort of unstructured practice that I have that I try to keep in mind throughout my days. But yeah, pretty much that. Well, anything else?
Yeah, I think, what you said too is that mentality of people think like, okay, I need this little relief. I need this little food to give me relief. but then it like could translate like, again, that's like not necessarily a sin, but then it's like, I guess it gets you used to the gluttony mentality, which is like gluttony. Some people think, okay, yeah, stuffing yourself with food or eating too much junk food, but also gluttony. I think I saw like spiritual gluttony too, right? Gluttony is anything basically where you try to fill yourself up instead of letting God fill you. So then people, I guess, if they get used to like filling themselves up with a little snack or a little bit of unhealthy food, then it's like, okay, it translates to this other mentality, which is that people think that, okay, I need sin to give me relief. I need sin to just give me this sort of like, this feeling of happiness or this feeling of satisfaction or this feeling that I'm not, in constant pain or lonely or whatever. And then again, that little line is there. It's a line that's like, okay, like, am I going to fill myself up with something? Do I need to have a relief? Or am I going to let God completely take over in every single little thing? So then when you're in those little moments of like, do I need this little piece of junk food? It's like, okay, no, I don't need to fill myself up with anything except like, okay, yeah, you're going to eat healthy food. You're going to fill yourself up with healthy things to please God because you know that everything good comes from God. And then if you're doing something good, you're glorifying God. Okay, I'm going to do this to glorify God. I'm going to take care of my body because it pleases God. Yeah. But then when it comes down to like the unhealthy stuff, it's like, okay, I don't need to fill myself with junk because again, like I love this body that God gave me, even though I'm nothing, even though I deserve 1,000 hells. I love, honoring God by honoring my body. And then I'm going to completely devote myself to God by only doing things that would please him. Like again, and picture Jesus on his way to Calvary. Like, do you think he's going to want, like, I don't know, like I'd throw up if someone gave me a Snickers bar in the middle of like exercise or something like that. Maybe my body's just used to healthy food right now, but it's like, okay, would you give him water? Would you give him like a healthy, like an apple or something, like something that's going to, nourish him, something that's going to be good, something that he created to help us, flourish and be in his will. And anyway, that's kind of,
that's nice. Yeah. I want to touch on this real quick before we move on. One thing that really struck me was, I don't know if I read this in the book I have about scrupulosity, but it talked about somewhere I read that do everything for the glory of God. Right. And I think that like, and some people might be like, okay, does that mean that I have to be, I don't know, praying 24 hours? For some, maybe, that might be it. But like for everybody, it's going to be different. And even like when you're having fun with your friends, right? You can do that for the glory of God. Have a productive time with your friends. Maybe just have the joy, have the simple joy of, I don't know, playing kickball with a few buddies of yours, right? And like enjoy that time to like 100%. And then afterwards, you can like go and do like your other chores or other prayer lives and whatnot, right? Pretty much is like to dedicate everything. It's like, okay, God, like for the kickball example, it's like, okay, God, I'm gonna use this time to be grateful to your creations, all the children of God that you have here that you've blessed me with, right? And I'm gonna use this time to really enjoy, like the body you gave me with this game and all this stuff, right? Like giving it all to God, essentially, like always being super grateful and dedicating everything to the glory of God. I think that's a good way to look at it, and that's when you start to look at everything in like a different light at that point.
Yeah, I know, that's definitely amazing. And yeah, you mentioned the scrupulosity too. And it's so amazing that, again, you go to books, like some people, like I've heard this term like deconstruction lately, that people like go and they look at Catholicism and then they like try to pick the little parts to justify pleasing other people by sin, or saying like, okay, sin is really okay because like, or this church teaching is really like okay to disobey because I think it's like in accordance with whatever I want to do. So people use that term deconstruction, but they're really destroying their own soul. They're like, if you think about like construction, like building something up, they're destroying their own soul by not looking to the saints. Like that's what you're doing, is looking to the saints. You're looking to these books. And I think for scrupulosity, because I think someone mentioned that as a question, but I think the two most effective things, like for Catholics that are actually trying to follow God, they're going to Mass, they're looking things up in the catechism if they have doubts, they're trying to see if something is a sin or not. Saint Therese writes to her cousin who was struggling with scrupulosity to the point of like not being sure if she was like worthy to go to communion, if she was in a state of grace or not. But basically Saint Therese says that if basically you have a doubt if something is a mortal sin or not, it's probably not, for the people that again are super holy. So like that's one thing to keep in mind. It's like, if you're holy, if you're trying to look things up, again, not the people that are saying like, oh, I don't know if having sex outside of marriage is a sin, and then they just don't look it up and then they continue doing it so then they can get away with it in their minds, when they're really just blinding their conscience and destroying their souls. No, that's not the people I'm talking about. I'm talking about, again, the people that are trying to be holy.
Right.
But
quick definition of scrupulosity.
Yeah. So scrupulosity, I think the root of it comes from trying to please God as much as possible. So for example, like you're not sure if like the little tiny things that you do are sins or not. Like for example, like for me, like if I see someone taking God's name on TV, like I might think like, oh, did I accidentally repeat that in my head? Or oh no, did I take God's name in vain? Oh no, did I commit a mortal sin right now? Like that's something that's crossed my mind in the past before. But
Yeah.
so that's like basically like it comes from the desire from wanting to please God so much that you start to get into the realm of anxiety. You start freaking out. You start saying, "Oh no, did I commit a sin? Did I do this?" And then you try to go to confession as quickly as possible. But then, yeah, Christ tells Luisa Picaretta, and I'm sure he probably tells other saints too. Like when we worry, when we focus on our own powers instead of praying, and when we say like, "Okay, oh no, like did I really do this? Did I really do that?" And we let these thoughts consume us instead of praying to God, instead of loving Him, then that's offensive to God. That's disappointing, displeasing to God because we're not focusing on Him. That comes, and I guess it's a tie to pride, right? Because like we're focusing on ourselves. It's like, well, yeah, like we're helpless, like we're gonna fall without God. But like if we think that we've committed a little sin, it's like, okay, God, I'm sorry, and then just spend the rest of the day loving Him instead of focusing on yourself. What did you really sin or not? Or like those thoughts can cycle on forever and ever. So you just focus like, okay, I'm sorry, God, if I sinned, and then just focus on, okay, like fiat, Jesus Maria, I the sinner love you with all, is what I would do. But then, but yeah, again, that's if you're not sure if it's a mortal sin or not. If it is a mortal sin, yeah, go to confession, of course. If you're sure that it's a mortal sin, you see in the catechism that it says like, yeah, masturbation, grave sin, like, yeah, go to confession. Don't go to communion. But but yeah, scrupulosity, again, short answer is like, basically it's like a concern with ourselves, our own power, instead of just saying like, okay, God, you take over if this is a sin or not. Like you'll let me know, you'll help me find the answer. And I'm not going to spend too much time dwelling on my own power to see if it's a sin or not. I'm just going to spend the rest of the day loving you.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Give me 1 second. I have the book right there, and I like that. Like the definition that you gave was like was really good. Like, and I want to read the definition that they have there because it's practically 101. Give me like 30 seconds. Hold on.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, I'm back. So the definition here, Saint Alphonsus Liguori. The suffering that affects scrupulous souls comes from the fear that what they are doing might be sinful, right? So So here in the book it says scrupulosity can be defined as uneasy and persistent concern that one's actions might be sinful when in fact they are not. So that is like that is essentially what a lot of people tend to like that. And talking about the communion stuff, when it's like, okay, should I receive the body of Christ today? But like, I don't know if I committed sin just now, or if I had like me remembering something might have been a mortal sin, or intrusive thought might have been a mortal sin, or whatever. It's like what you just said about Saint Therese. The book here says it really great. If you're in doubt, then it doesn't count. Like, and if you're in doubt about the doubt, then it doesn't count. So it's like it's very freeing to know that, because it's like, if you're in the slightest bit of doubt, about it, then it's like, then yeah, you're fine. Go take communion. But again, if you do know, like if you know for sure that it's like, yeah, well, I don't know, I watched porn the other day intentionally. I did something bad the other day, right? That was a mortal sin. Then yeah, go to the confession, right? But apart from that, if you are doubting whether that was mortal or not, and you are genuinely searching for holiness, then yeah, you're not that wasn't a yeah, you're fine. You're pretty much fine. So yeah, let's get into scrupulosity then. So I also like the part I had it written down. The devil can use your piety against you. So. One of the greatest examples of scrupulosity, is that a lot of people, some people think that, like, I've heard it before, that it might be Catholics, that Catholics just tend to have it more because, like, of all the works that we have to do, and et cetera, all this stuff, right? And I think that's kind of like not too accurate, because when you look into Christianity as a whole, I'm kind of more likely to believe that it's either two options. Either A, it's equally shared between Protestants and Catholics, or B, it's higher in Protestants. And I'm not even trying. I'm not trying to be like, oh, Protestants have more cause. It's not us or whatever. But the reason I say that is because of not of the person that a Protestant can be. Like, I've met Protestants that are very fine people, but because of how Protestantism came about, how it sprouted. when in the book that I keep on referencing, it blew my mind to read about Martin Luther. And for those that don't know, like Martin Luther is the pretty much the leader of the Protestant revolt, the person that essentially was responsible for splitting the church, for having the Protestants, like leave the church, all the Catholics that used to be Catholic now starting their own churches and whatnot. And a lot of people tend to think that that was because of church corruption and whatnot. And while there was some, and because of people not following church teaching, not because of the church teaching corruption, while there was some priests not following church teaching to the extent that they should have been, that actually wasn't the main reason why Martin Luther did a lot of what he did. If you look at his writings, which the book really delves into, if you look at the writings, we can clearly see a very, very strong case of scrupulosity. He would like go to confession every single day. He would make long lists of his sins, and he wouldn't. Another thing about scrupulous souls is that that he wouldn't submit to like the guidance of his higher ups. Which as Catholics, we always want to make sure we're obedient, right? And if and one of the best cures that I've had for my scrupulosity is going to my higher ups and like having to be obedient to what they have to say about like, okay, well, this is how it is. You don't have to worry about this and whatnot, right? Being obedient to that. And funny enough, one of my spiritual counselors, he's a priest. He told me that like what you talked about, Nico, that scrupulosity has like some links to pride. He actually told me that like scrupulosity, it's rooted in pride. It has a lot of spiritual vanity in it, and it can be very, very disguised through wanting to serve God to the best of your extent, right? But it is essentially essentially a huge taint of pride, where like you literally just said, like you were talking about, like instead of focusing on how much I can I can like focusing so much on me, I have to focus more on God, right? And that's essentially it. And I do realize that myself. I do have like a lot of spirit. Sometimes my spiritual vanity was way more off the rails before. I'm still working on it now, right? It's not totally gone, but I can recognize right now that like scrupulosity, yeah, like huge thing on spiritual vanity. But that's when I want to talk about like that. Like one thing that I read in the book that it's going to help a lot of people like that are watching this is that the smallest action done with the purest intention will always please God more than the largest action done but with like a tainted intention. Like it's almost as if you're it's because God, think of it like the father, right? The father. If you're a father, like like you have kids and whatnot, your kids simply just existing and being pure, that fills you with so much joy. They can just be like walking, like they can just be laughing, right? And purely laughing. And that to you, that just fills you with so much joy, right? Or any other person that you love just existing, right? That's how God looks at you. So, like that's not to say that like, don't shoot for like, insanely amazing things or like great things or whatever, right? Like, but I'm trying to say pretty much like focus on like what God considers great is if you're doing something with the purest intentions, he considers that great. So, like always make sure that your intentions are pure, because that is essentially what God is going to care the most about. So, yeah, I want to touch on that. Nico, anything you want to add on?
Yeah, no, again, think it's so amazing how you just go and you're able to pull out your books and stuff and say like, okay, this is what the saints say, and this is what actually happened. And yeah, again, with Martin Luther, it's just, yeah, he was focusing on like himself, but like imagine like, yeah, basically like we're helpless. Like if we have to think about every single little thing that we did, like there's probably sins that we forget about all the time, or that we don't realize that we're actually sins that we do. So then like if we have to be accountable for ourselves, like, okay, like, yeah, we're hopeless, but that's like the point, right? Like the link to pride is that we cannot save ourselves. We don't even know the sins that we commit sometimes. So if we are giving God everything, if we're letting him take over, then that's when his mercy can actually, when we accept his mercy, when we actually give ourselves to him and he says, okay, like he's gonna, like if we ask God to help us love him more, as St. Padre Pio says, like he cannot refuse. So if we ask God, okay, God, like I don't know if I've sinned or not, I don't know if I've like, offended you, but if you, like, I want to love you as much as possible, I want to never offend you again, then he's gonna help us find the answer. Like for example, like if we like talk about someone else and we're not sure if we gossiped or not to the point of committing a mortal sin, then it's like, okay, like look up the answer online. And then if we're still not sure, like, okay, go to communion, or like look to the saints, look to whoever. But then it's like, if you're still not sure, then don't go through that cycle of like trying to relive what happened and make sure that you know exactly what happened. It's just, okay, like God, like I trust in you. I'm not sure if this was a mortal sin. So I'm going to go to Holy Communion, and then I'll confess it in confession, maybe just in case. And then after that, it's just like, okay, I trust in you. I trust that you will save me. I want to love you as much as possible. Again, that's a distinction. Like you were saying, like the purest intention. Like some people say, oh yeah, I have a good conscience or I have pure intentions. But then really, and then they go and like they promote the like the sexual sins, like to put it lightly. There's certain ones that people like to talk about more than others. But yeah, no, they say like, okay, no, like, oh no, I'm good. Like God loves me. I have my own conscience. Like, no, you don't. Like if your conscience is directly opposed to God, that's you. You're worshiping yourself. You're not worshiping God. You're worshiping like your idea, your imagination. If you submit to God, if you let him take over, then he'll align your conscience with his will. And that's something that we have to believe. Like we believe in his justice. Yes, like there will be punishment for sin, and but also in his mercy. Like if we ask God to help us love him more, he will put us on the right path. He will help us not offend him.
Yeah, most definitely. One thing that everybody like it's always a very very sharp reminder is that God is love. He loves you. You have no idea how much he loves you. He loves you so much. So that's something that like you have to really really remember. One, I want to talk about the story, which you might find shocking, actually. And actually, anybody that watches this is going to find kind of shocking. So this is regarding scrupulosity, and it actually like it almost I almost like it caused me to look into Mormonism and Orthodoxy. I'm not even kidding. I considered becoming Mormon or Orthodox, and I know that's kind of like a very weird thing, but it's one thing about scrupulous souls is that one of the tendencies tend to be like they go off of their own standards and not really any standards by any higher ups in the church or scripture. So like that's one thing that scrupulous souls tend to do. And I was doing that. One of those standards for me was that like, I want to. The true church should probably be the one that is the most hated, right? And and I was like, well, the Mormon church is also pretty hated. So I was kind of, and then the Orthodox church, well, I don't know much if they hate them, but it's pretty similar to the Catholic church. So I don't know, maybe there might be some truth in there, right? Obviously now I'm like, well, for the same reason that like, like if a pedophile comes out of nowhere, it's like, yeah, I'm a pedophile. Everybody's also gonna hate that person, right? It's like you can be hated for doing evil things, you can be hated for doing righteous things. That's not a very good metric to try to judge, like where if something's correct or not. But anyways, yeah, like so one time I was having a like a lot of anxiety. I was kind of having like a panic moment where I was I have a girlfriend, for those that don't know. I have a girlfriend, and I really do want to marry her, and when I got on fire about my faith, I was very very like, am I supposed to become a priest? What if God's calling me to become a priest? What if what if that's happened? And I was getting so much anxiety over it because I had already I was like already planning to marry this girl. I was already like I'm on the road for that. That's pretty much what I've been planning for like my whole year, like all the years that I've been with her. And I was essentially just like the amount of anxiety I got from like thinking of like what like the like if I would be capable of breaking up with her. That filled me with so much anxiety and so much panic that is literally that is what caused me to be like, maybe Catholicism, maybe the priestly teaching, maybe that's not right. Oh shoot!
I think it froze there for a second. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm back. I think I'm back.
Okay, cool.
There we go. All right. Sorry about that. What was the last thing I said?
That's when I think you're talking about the anxiety. That's when it went up, and you weren't sure about becoming a priest, and yeah.
Yeah. So I had a lot of anxiety when I was like, would I be capable of breaking up with her? And like I started like visualizing all that, and I just got like I think I started crying even maybe. I was really like just filled with so much anxiety, and that caused me to be like, okay, well maybe the priestly maybe like the priesthood is like is not an infallible thing. Maybe it's not like it's not because I heard before like some people like to say like, okay, well maybe the latest council might not be infallible or might not be, etc. And so I was like, okay, maybe this the priestly vocation might be there might be some air to it, right? And so I looked into that, and there you go. It's a dogma. It's a freaking dogma that the celibacy is like it's like a very holy. It's something like it's even like higher than like the married state, right? And so and again that kind of appealed to my ego because I was like, well, shoot, maybe I should be, maybe I should be going for that, which is the wrong reason why you should want to become a priest. And so like that was filling me with so much anxiety that I was like, okay, maybe Catholicism as a whole, maybe that's wrong, maybe that's not right. And so I looked into Mormonism. I was like, okay, what do the Mormons believe? What do the Mormons believe? What do the Orthodox believe, and stuff like that. But quickly enough, I don't know how, but I was still I was remaining I remained conscious, like not like I don't want to say conscious, but like I remained objective enough within like with what I had, with all that I knew, that I was quickly able to be like, yeah, Mormonism is not it, Orthodoxy not it. I saw the flaws in both of them, and I was like, I have to accept this, and I pretty much decided to be like, God, I am at your sacrifice. I know that wherever I go, I know that whatever happens, whatever actions I take or whatever actions are taken upon me, whatever happens, I am at your complete I'm at your complete disposal, at your complete sacrifice. And frankly, and the thing about that, it was that night, if I had only talked to a spiritual counselor, like, sooner, he would have told me, well, if you're feeling anxiety from it, then you probably should not do that, right? Like, you should probably, anxiety is not really that of God. So, just like keep discerning if it's a good relationship, if you should marry, right? And that would have set me at peace immediately. But I hadn't done that. So I was kind of like, Lord, which is the correct thing to do. You should always be sacrificial to God. But like, you understand like the anxiety that it caused me for not submitting to it, like going to a church higher up beforehand. And so, and like that took, like, personally for me, I can say like that took a lot of like, I felt like I just like one of the biggest moments where I died to myself. And I look back at like what happened with Martin Luther, and he talks about like the same, like, this doesn't sit right in my heart, this book doesn't sit right in my heart and whatnot. And I'm like, dude, this guy is literally me in the wrong way. This guy is literally like in the bad sense, right? This guy is literally me. But he decided to take I'm going to decide to remove the books. I'm going to make my own faith, rather than being, okay, I'm leaving it all up to you, Lord. Like, that tragedy, thank God that God was able to like use that tragedy of mine to teach me a huge lesson. That's like, obedience is enormous. It's huge. One of the greatest virtues. So yeah, that's definitely something that, oh, hold on, give me a second. I wonder did the live stream stop?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it's still on. It's still on. We're good.
Okay.
So yeah, huge moment that I'm so grateful to God that he was able to turn that tragedy into a humongous lesson. And frankly, I was only able to do that self-sacrifice because of God. Like, I mean, like, I could not have done that crap myself. Like, I shouldn't say crap. That enormous act, I couldn't have done that myself, because like God, like, again, all good things come from God. It's not about like, all the grace is coming from you and you're doing it. It's that you're letting God, you're cooperating with the grace that God gives you. So yeah, huge thing that I wanted to point out. That's like something that I want people to think about.
Oh, wow, that sounds really awesome. Yeah, because that anxiety, it does really affect you, because it's like, okay, like I have this decision that can like impact basically my eternity. It's like, okay, do I become a priest or do I not? And then I'm sure that must have been pretty overwhelming to just think about all that. I think one thing that is helpful, I guess now, like, it sounds pretty clear that you want to get married. And, but yeah, one thing that's like, I think key, I think St. Alfonso Liguori said that, like, on your deathbed, basically, like, what would you have wished you would have done? And it's like, okay, well, I still don't know, I guess might be the answer to some people. But then for me, it's like, okay, would you be a good enough dad or a good enough spouse, basically, that you can raise, 20 priests if God wills you to have 20 children, or maybe they're all boys, or maybe they're like, 10 boys and 10 girls, like, okay, 10 priests and 10 sisters or nuns, like, that would be pretty amazing, right? It's like, oh, maybe I'd be able to raise priests and nuns that are better than I ever would be. So that's pretty cool to think about too. It's like, okay, not only would, like, of course, like offering the mass, infinite value, that sacrifice has infinite value. But then it's like, okay, like if I were to raise like solid Catholic, like men and women that can become better priests than I ever would be, it's like, okay, all their masses would be, infinite value too. So it's like, okay, I'm going to give everything to God. And then I guess that's just like the question that some people have, like, what talents do you have? Like, are you called to be a mom or a dad? or are you called to be, to devote your talents to becoming a priest or a sister or a nun? But basically, I guess some of those questions. But I guess to focus on more on your main point, which is like, yes, like letting God take over. That's amazing what you did, not falling into that trap of just like focusing, on yourself. And but the way you worded it was really cool too. It's like, and then it made me think like, why would anyone follow someone who just like decides to start like changing the rules in the way that he did, and then like the way he took like a wife, and it's like it's kind of weird what he was doing. It's like I don't understand how people, maybe it's that just that sense of overwhelm, like maybe they also like resonated with what you were saying, like maybe they just like needed some freedom from that sense of like, okay, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to follow this guy and let's see if this works out, because maybe he found the freedom and maybe he'll give me that freedom too. I think maybe it's that like that fixation on like I have to control things, or I have to like make sure that I'm doing, like I have to know basically. And it's that pride, like you said, that leads us to want to control things ourselves. And maybe it's that pride that leads us to want to follow people that take matters into their own hands instead of just submitting to God.
It's that pride that makes people want to follow themselves. That is a great way to put it. Because and it's so simple too. I mean, it's like it's almost as if it's like, well, yeah, of course. Like but when you like that statement is so heavy, because you look at, I mean, and again, I don't mean to bash on Protestants. I love my Protestant brothers and whatnot. I love them so much that I wish them to come back home. Right? But like I love them a lot. I genuinely do. And one thing that I see a lot within Protestantism, this is a lot of stuff, and like Catholics, you should check, beware of this, because if you don't if your heart's not in the right place, this could be you. So again, not that all Protestants have their hearts in the wrong place. Some Protestants just like need some more time and whatnot. But what I see a lot is that I want to, like, the pride that to do what you want to do, right? Some Protestants are very skeptical of submitting, for example, to the Pope, because they see the Pope do some actions that are like bad, some scandalous actions that somebody could argue are scandalous, like some stuff that even Catholics were like, yeah, we wish that we didn't do that, right? So like some Protestants are like, yeah, I don't really know if I want to submit to that, right? And then it's like, but that's due to like a lack of usually that's due to a lack of understanding of like what's the Pope's infallibility really is, right? And but to them, even if they were to learn about that, right, they were to be like, well, I still don't know, man. I just can't do that, but what are they intrinsically saying in that? It's like they're intrinsically saying like, well, I don't want to submit. I would rather keep on living the faith how I, with this freedom that I have, and here that I can, dictate what I want to dictate, right? And for like the idol, like, when the Protestants say idealization of Mary, right? Oh, I don't want to idolize Mary, right? It's like, well, we're venerating her, but it's like, oh, well, you're kneeling and all this stuff, but it's like, yeah, but that's by your standards what idolatry is. That's by your standards. And and it's, to a certain extent, it's like, to them, it's like, it could be religious OCD, that it's like scrupulosity, that it's like, well, no, if I were to pray, or if I were to kneel, that like I would feel as if I'm sinning, when in fact they are not. So I think that there's a lot of moments in Protestantism that it could make the argument that, like, it just, to me, it just makes sense that it's like, like the person that literally sprouted Protestantism was largely due to religious OCD. It only makes sense that a lot of it, by effect, would include a lot of religious OCD of scrupulosity in a lot of these circles, unfortunately. So yeah, that's why I really do recommend seeking spiritual counseling and be obedient to it. Don't emulate the disobedience of Martin Luther. I think every Catholic should have a spiritual counselor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's another thing that St. Alphonsus Liguori recommends is, definitely have a spiritual director. For a while, I didn't have one. I just went to the books written by the saints. I was like, okay, these are going to be my guide. Then I eventually got one. But yeah, no, it's great to follow the advice of the saints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
most definitely. Anything else you want to add on for scrupulosity?
I think that's good.
Alrighty. Let's see the chat real quick. See if anybody's saying anything.
Okay.
Hey fellas, just want to say it's good to see some young Catholic men doing good things in the interweb space. Fellow Catholic young man, let's go. Can you react to Caleb Malbin religion and communism video, Franco? Maybe some other time. We got some stuff to cover today. All right. Let's move on. So, Catholics and entertainment. What should we be watching? What should we or what should we not be watching? Better to say, because there's more stuff that we can watch than there is, I'm sure, stuff that we shouldn't watch. So I'm sure porn is like out of the get go.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I'm sure that that's not what the question meant. But yeah.
I think I remember Father Ripperger talking something about basically if there's a show that basically, like, for example, like, I don't know, like if there's a show that's or a movie that's about like revenge or something, and it's going to inspire these feelings of revenge and get you into that mentality of like, okay, this what they're doing is good, this revenge that they're doing is good, then like you're basically conditioning yourself to be in those moments of temptation and be like, okay, like I have this revenge is good mentality in the back of my head, so it's going to influence me in those moments, and I might sin. So basically, anything where you're rooting for someone that is going to be sinful, basically, it's like that's not a good show to watch if it's influencing you, if you're conditioning yourself to sin in the future, to have that mentality to just be like, okay, I'm going to do this thing that makes me feel good to get that revenge, or to pursue that person in a sinful way, like it's sexual sin or something like that. Then anything that's going to condition you to sin, don't do that. I guess it's really tough to find shows where they like don't take God's name in vain, which is like ideally we shouldn't watch shows that take God's name in vain. But that's basically like everyone, like lots of people going to hell basically. But basically, I guess if you see someone taking God's name in vain, like pray for them. Like acts of reparation do help. Like for example, the Jesus Mary I love you saves souls, which is one reason in the Fiat Jesus Maria I the sinner love you with all, that like combines that, like, right, you mentioned Jesus and Mary and I love you with all, like with all the love that you should have been given with your love. But then it's like making that reparation for that actor or actress who's committing a grave sin, who's like basically choosing hell by taking God's name in vain. Or I don't know if that's like a thing in Hollywood. Maybe they tell them like, okay, you have to take God's name in vain to get this role, or they just sneak it in there. I don't know what they do. I'm just like guessing here, but like it seems like it's just ridiculous the amount of times they could just say God, or just say something like wow, or like yeah, just like how hard is it to really just, if you get surprised or shocked or like disappointed, like do you really have to take God's name in vain, or can you just say wow? Like that says something about your soul if you can't refrain from taking God's name in vain. Like how much reverence do you have towards him? How much, okay, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but basically like anything that inspires you to sin, or that makes you think that sin is good, don't watch that. Or anything. And then on the other side, I guess if you're watching something, it's like, okay, this is what not to do, and that's a different way to look at it. If you're looking at a character on TV and you're saying, okay, this is what not to do, and this is the opposite virtue, and you're kind of like, or if you're like, for example, like a professional and you're looking at an example of someone like a murder or something on TV, and you're analyzing them like Criminal Minds or something, it's like, okay, I'm going to understand what these people are thinking so I can help them more, then that could be good. But basically, if be honest with yourself and say like, okay, is this person or is this character on TV or is this show inspiring me to sin, or making my mind think, like conditioning my mind to think that sin is okay, then like stay away from that.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. The one thing that one of my buddies told me one time in a Bible study, I think it might have been a Bible study. He was saying like, whenever you hear somebody shout like the Lord's name in vain or something, like in person, and I guess like we can apply this to movies as well, is you could always like you said, finish it off, right? You could finish it off with like, if somebody says Jesus, Mary, I love you, right? Like finish it off, right? Jesus, I love you, or just start saying, I don't know, start saying the act of contrition or something like that. I don't know, like make it holy, right? Make it holy. I think that could be something as well. Definitely pray for the actors, because like I would like to think that a lot of them just simply don't know the like the grave matter that it is. So definitely pray for them, that they may that they may repent and change. The one thing that I personally some standards that I really go by for movies. Well, first off, obviously like if it's anything that's lustful, that's like Game of Thrones, for example, is like, probably shouldn't even like turn it on at all, right? But if you're like watching some movie and you didn't know that there's gonna be a sexual scene, as soon as you see it, just like like either turn it off or just immediately look away, right?
Or skip 15 seconds ahead or whatever.
Or skip 15 seconds ahead, right? Close your eyes 15 seconds ahead, right? You can do that, right? Because I mean, your eyes are the like what, the doors to your soul or something. I don't know if that's a secular phrase, but I think that makes sense. And also for me, this is something more like, I think I don't know if this is this unique, but something that I personally like don't like a lot is when there are like horror movies or like disturbing movies, and they show like disturbing, gory scenes or like tragic scenes, I for me personally, I don't like seeing that. I don't, because I don't like filling my mind with tragedy and seeing so much stuff like that. I don't like, just tragic situations in general. It's like, yeah, they're tragic, sure, and we want God to produce something good out of that. But if given the chance, I don't want to be seeing all that tragedy. Like if we have to, if somebody's mother died or something like that, then like, yeah, please let me know so I can pray for them and whatnot, right? But if you're just like showing it in a movie just to show it or whatever, and instead of just teaching like a large, Christian narrative or like a good morality to it, then then there's no point to it, and it's just there for the shock value, and which I don't want to be filling my mind with. So me personally, I don't like like if a movie like, I don't know, I think a movie like that was it's a recent movie now that criticizes Christianity. It was a recent movie like that, not The Whale. I think the Devil All the Time, I think it was. I like within like 30 minutes or so, there was like a couple disturbing scenes, disturbing tragic scenarios, and I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm not watching, like the meme. I'm not watching that. I was like, I was watching it with my girlfriend, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not watching this. I turn it off, like, because to her, for example, like the reason I say it personally for me, because to her, like that doesn't affect her, because I think to some people, it's like they can easily tell that it is just like it's fake, it's all blood, like it's just the charities, like I don't ketchup or whatever. Like to them, it's just like, yeah, like it doesn't impact them at all. But for some people like me, I personally, like, I can't separate it that well, right? It doesn't come that like second nature to me. So when I see that, it really, I get very, very into it, and it's not good for me personally. So that's why I would personally, if you're like me, I would advise that. But yeah, apart from that, like just as long as you're making sure that your state of mind is fine, I think you're gonna be fine. But yeah, apart from that, everything that's stated, very true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess one other thing, like, yeah, people always get pissed when I mention the Harry Potter. I guess when people say, like, don't watch Harry Potter. But, like, for me, it's like, yeah, like, Father Ripperger was saying that, like, I guess because he talks to other exorcists. So he's saying, like, okay, he's known of 3 kids that got possessed by just reading Harry Potter. And if people can't see, like, if people don't get turned off from Harry Potter just by knowing that 3 kids got possessed by reading it, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, you really can't keep this from your kids? Like, what are you, like, are you so obsessed with, like, your kids fitting in, or your kids getting some sort of little pleasure by, like, looking at the movie, that you can't take this demonic influence away from them? It's like, come on, what's wrong with you? Like, focus on God. Like, take your kids to Mass. Like, you don't see parents, like, fighting for their kids to go to Mass or fighting for their kids to learn about God. You see parents fighting about, like, to watch Harry Potter, fighting online with other people, like, oh, no, Harry Potter's so good. It's like, no, like, listen to The Exorcist. Like, who are you? You're no one. These people are dealing with, like, casting out demons, and you think you know better than them? It's like the arrogance, the pride there, the ego. People, like, I guess it's that mentality of, like, okay, I know better, or I know, like, what really is good for my kids. Like, no, you don't. Like, this exorcist probably knows what's better for your kids than you do. Yeah. So just listen to them and let God take over your life, instead of, like, potentially letting these demons sneak in. Again, pride is the sneaky sin. Pride is the one that, like, you might not detect. You might say, like, oh, no, I really know what's better. It's like, okay, if it's you or an exorcist, like, I think the exorcist probably knows better.
I totally, like, and I understand why some parents might be like, well, does it really matter that much? And I totally understand that, because when you look at Harry Potter, it's like, oh, look, it's just waving a wand around, and it's all cool. He has a deer as his Patronus or whatever the heck they call it, right? It's like, oh, look, it's all wonderful. They're just kids, right? I can understand why a parent wouldn't see that much threat to it, and why they might think like somebody like you is exaggerating. But when you think about it, and like when you really dissect it, you start to see a lot of a lot of evil, that not just in Harry Potter, but like how these tactics are used in the broad coalition of media in Hollywood. What do movies do? When you leave a movie, you, like, the whole point of the movie is that you want to be rooting for the main character. You want to be rooting for the people that you like in the movie. So when you are rooting for that, like you talked about this, like when you're rooting for that person, it's like, what are you rooting for, right? Like, what exactly is it that you're rooting for? Because when you're rooting for a character, when they make the characters lovable for a reason, right? Sometimes for a good reason, sometimes for a bad reason, like we've seen in Harry Potter, right? And like, obviously, in Harry Potter, they make this whole, like, oh, well, there's the ghouls or whatever versus the the witches, the wizards, right? There's those are the good guys and the bad guys, right? first off, that's not even like reflecting of reality, but also it tries to change something that does exist in reality into something good versus something that's even worse off than good, right? And so what do? The kid sees that. And it's like, wow, Harry Potter is cool. And I was one of those kids. I'm like, yo, Harry Potter's pretty cool, right? Harry Potter's cool, and I wanna, I wanna have a wand. I wanna make like, the kid starts seeing the spells and all that stuff. The kid's gonna be like, yo, that's cool. I want to start doing that stuff. That's how they get the kids. That's how they get your kids. And like you see this in social and music videos. You see this in TikTok. That's how they groom kids. They groom kids by doing a bunch of like stuff that's for kids, that to make the kid, who's the most impressionable? Kids are the most impressionable, and they make it very subtle, so that it's like, oh well, like they don't tell you about the demonic practices. They don't tell you about all that stuff that's in real life. They just show you the wands, the cool stuff, the casting spells. And then the kids get into the slippery slope, and they're like, I wish there was something like that in real life. Wait, there is? Oh my gosh, I want to look into it. Boom, hooked. And like it's a huge slippery slope, and it's absolutely dangerous. And like, for the rooting, like, and I want to touch back on like the rooting for the main characters. Like, I was watching The Patriot by Mel Gibson, and we can talk about Mel Gibson some other time, but Mel Gibson, I like a lot of his movies, and he and what the main character in what Mel Gibson is doing, and the main thing, right? It's like, you feel bad for him because his kids die and all that stuff, right? But what is the moral of the movie, right? The moral of the movie is essentially like, it ends. The climax is when he kills the dude that killed his children. So a large part of it is revenge, and like I didn't feel satisfied when I finished that. I'm like, He just got revenge. Like, really? Like that's what I was rooting for. I kind of felt like that was a letdown. That was more of a letdown to me than that was of a, like, yeah, he killed the guy that killed his children. It's like you're rooting for murder. Like, I understand if you have to do self-defense, but if you're outwardly going and seeking to murder somebody that wronged you, that's revenge, right? Which is what you're not supposed to be doing. So it's it really, really, I think parents should be really, really careful with what their children see. It's, again, demonic forces are very much at play everywhere. That's how civilizations get destroyed. And right now, the people that are in power right now, it's not because they want to destroy their own country. It's because they don't care about what happens to the country. They just want profit. And they know that this stuff sells. They know it sells a lot. And especially because sin sells a lot. Some people might want to say that there's conspiracy theory, like some conspiracy or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not going to say it's not. But me personally, what I can say for sure is that sin sells, and it makes total sense that people are going to want to use sin to promote a lot of different degeneracies, to try to get your kids hooked on it, to capitalize on it, and then to just expand on profits. So be careful, be very careful with what your kids listen to or watch. And even like what you talked about, Nico, when you said like parents are like fighting over like what their kids should watch or whatever. It's like, why do you care so much about what media they watch if they could just go outside and have fun? It's like, kids had a lot of fun, can still have a lot of fun without watching this groundbreaking TV show. They could still experience immense amounts of joy without having to sit at home with, eating their chips, watching some degenerate TV show or movie or whatever. They can still have a lot of fun, right? So, and if you haven't found other parents that, that aren't on the same mindset, then you need to go out and change minds, or you need to find people that are on the same mindset. So, that's where I want to leave it at. Unless you have something to add.
Yeah, just like, you mentioned like kids want to go and do things. They want to play outside. They want to, like, you mentioned the waving the wands. It's like, okay, well, there are these like spiritual heroes like Saint Veronica Giuliani, who would walk on her knees in the snow, like do extreme things. And she got the stigmata she suffered for souls. It's like, show kids heroes like that a trillion years from now, when they're looking back at their life on earth, it's like, yeah, my parents helped me become a saint, become a hero. They didn't help me follow in the footsteps of kids that got possessed. And like Our Lady of Fatima showed hell to 3 kids. It's like, okay, if they could deal with seeing souls and demons in hell, I know, it's like ridiculous. Like, some people try to downplay Our Lady of Fatima. It's like sad. But when Our Lady is showing 3 kids like hell, and some parents won't even mention hell, but then they are feeding their kids junk like Harry Potter, it's like, okay, these kids, you're not leading your kids to God. And then maybe it's that mentality of parents thinking that everyone goes to heaven, which is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, if you, like you said, like you whipped out your saint books and like, or your saint book, and then like you mentioned talking about books, like if we follow in the footsteps of the saints, like we'll see that, yeah, there are souls in hell. Yeah, like parents, you do have a responsibility to lead your kids to heaven, because not everyone goes there. So yeah, do something that they're going to remember a billion years from now.
And not only that, but like even talking about like, you know, the reasons for why we want to raise our children that way. Like there are possibilities where, you know, a child can just be so ignorant, right? That like maybe they don't go to hell, but they spend an absurd amount of time in purgatory that they could have chipped off if they had known Christ earlier, if they had more opportunities to be able to do indulgences and pray and reduce their time in purgatory, or totally eliminate it. But they won't have that chance because because parents didn't, you know, evangelize their child. So, you know, that's really, like, for me, that's like the biggest motivator, because again, like the invincible ignorance thing of like, you know, well, you know, some people, there are people that are going to go to hell, there are people that are going to go to heaven, right? But some people that are going to go to heaven might have a lot more baggage that they're going to have to, you know, cleanse off in purgatory. And that's really why I see that's really the importance of evangelizing, is we want people to be able to have that opportunity to shave off the you know, like the all the stuff in all the time in purgatory. So, you know, do you want your, like, because what we know about purgatory, we know that it's either highly discomforting or painful. So if you want your kid to, you know, like, depending on how, like, you want to bring the truth to your kid as soon as possible, so you can have as much time, because your kid is going to sin. He is going to sin. He is going to have those times, and if he doesn't have opportunities to be able to know what to do after that, and to repent for it, and to well, obviously, you know, any person that's, like, you know, invincibly ignorant, it still will repent for it. But if that person doesn't know what to do to be able to chip off the punishment, doesn't know that there's punishment in purgatory, if they don't have that chance, it's like you're really just like, you're not helping them find ways to deal with that. So yeah, definitely evangelize your kids, you know, like, and I don't mean like do it in like, you know, say Christ is Lord. I don't mean like that, obviously, you know, like lead by example, be a good parent, love them a lot, you know, love them how the Father loves you, with patience and all that stuff. But yeah, pretty much, like, and it's not to just say like, don't watch Harry Potter. No, you have to. That's part of it, but you also have to say, well, why would you want to watch that when you can go have fun with me and your dad, and like, or maybe they're teenagers, so that maybe they don't want to hang out with you. Like, go hang out with like the friends at your parish that you have hopefully had a good connection with, because you've been raising your kids well since early on and whatever, right? And of course, there's always a way, even if you haven't. You know, there's always a way with God. So yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I wanted to add that.
Awesome. Okay, I just want to let you know that my phone might be dying soon, but
oh sure, okay. You know. Okay. Let's so is there anything else you want to cover on entertainment for Catholics?
I think I'm good, but yeah, I think it was under 10% the last time I checked. So just to, yeah, you know, sorry, I'm making faces over here, but yeah, no, yeah.
You're good. You can't charge it, I'm assuming.
No, yeah, because my headphone thingy's plugged in. But sorry, my Bluetooth headphones are also out of battery. So
it's okay. What we can do is we can do an Instagram live stream, and we can continue this discussion. Either there's no way that you can continue it right today.
Well, I think my phone, yeah, I think I need to charge my Bluetooth headphones for those to work, but yeah, maybe if we do like next week or the week after, I don't know when you're free, but
we can do something like, we can do Monday. I'm pretty sure we can do Monday to continue it off. We'll answer the rest of the questions on Monday then. Sound good? Okay,
sounds good. Sorry, yeah.
No, you're good. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. So glad we're gonna have to cut it pretty short. Batteries, man. Come on, we gotta upgrade technology. Maybe not too much. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not too much. Anyways, yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining. And wait, real quick. What books did you use for spiritual count? I'm gonna answer some of the questions, but you can go ahead, brother. And okay. Nico, thank you so much for coming on the show. Nico's links are down in the description. His Instagram and his counseling. He does counseling, so it's down in the description if you want to go access that. Go follow Nico on Instagram. Thank you so much, Nico, for coming on, and I hope to see more epic daily Catholic content from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Franco. Thank you so much for having me. Can we do a quick like Glory Be or something before head out?
Yes. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Franco.
For sure.
God bless.
Take care, man. Take care. God bless. God bless.
Take care.
Alrighty. So, let's answer some questions. Now, I want to keep this quick because it was a live stream between me and him. So I don't want to make this my own thing now. What books did you use for spiritual guidance? This beauty right here, Scruples and Sainthood accepting and overcoming scrupulosity with the help of the saints, by Trent Beattie, Beattie, Trent Trent. Loving the interviews, keep it up. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Any other books that I use for spiritual counseling? I mean, I guess I could see the Bible. I use the Baltimore Catechism. I love the Baltimore Catechism a lot. Oh, camera, focus on me, please. Focus on me, please. Focus on me, please. Come. Oh shoot. Wait. There we go. Can you react to Caleb in communism video? I haven't checked. I don't know if that's appropriate, so I don't know if I'll react. I don't know if I can do a cold reaction to that. What books do you use for spiritual guidance? I already answered that. So yeah. If you guys have any more questions, since me and Nico are gonna answer questions next time. That's gonna give us a lot more time to answer specific questions. So if you have any questions, make sure to go follow my Instagram and Nico's Instagram, and I will definitely be putting up another questionnaire where you can submit questions as well. But right now I am gonna head out. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate you guys tuning into the content. Go check out my links down in the description for all my archived live streams. Some of them are private, some of them are only for members only on my website. So go check that out on my website. It's very cheap, $5 a month. Like it's like two Twix candy bars or like whatever other candy bars. 2 candy bars. You don't even have to like it's not even that much. King size candy bars, I guess. But yeah, anyways, take care, stay holy. I hope this video helped. I do want to keep making more content that can essentially help a lot of you guys, even people that are not Catholic, increase in their closeness to God. So take care, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and I will see you guys soon. We're gonna see so many more not just debates, but more collaboration soon. So God bless, take care,